That's exactly what it was about. Well, it's interesting that a lot of lemon spice so they ace brand both of it's all right. I mean, yes, yes, exactly. There's that. They seem to be and the sun.
I know, we used to go to each other's house.
We go to Marco Polo.
Welcome, welcome. Okay, we're going to have everybody move forward if you can. Put some chairs down here because we have a little audio that goes with the slideshow, and it's about 15 minutes. But it's the service that was given for Marie in Tennessee, and it's very precious. It's just two people speaking. Okay, so come on up and grab a seat. And first of all, welcome to everybody. I'm trying to find a place that makes a loud sound. And so many wonderful friends and relatives of Marie's that all made it here. So glad to have them celebrate and her wonderful life. And after we do this one, we've got a 5-minute one that Regina helped make in the clinic. And it's so precious. I hope that you can stay for that too, because it's the essence of Marie. And she looks really beautiful. And it was done in 2004 when we had the 35th anniversary of the People's Free Clinic / Community Clinic. So, and I see so many of you out here that probably don't know or remember that you knew some of the other people here. It's like amazing, the connections with everybody. So hopefully afterwards we can connect some of the people that haven't connected. And I'm hoping that I can read a few of the things that were sent by so many people who are out of state. Elaine Brightwater, Trinity Yates, Elaine Henry, Emily Unsemeyer. At least, there are at least a dozen of them that sent precious things. If I don't have time to read them, I'm going to put them on. They're very short little clips, and I'll email them now that I have most everybody's email, which is another wonderful thing about this, connecting and finding out where you work. So, Mary, if you will come up and tell a little bit about, where's Mary? A little bit about Chad and
So I had the privilege of working with Marie a long time ago in several different places, at People's and at Tad's, and she really was my mentor and heavily influenced the type of professional I am. And in my business there's something called when the tears flow, and so there may be some tears that flow, what it is that makes the tears flow when you're interviewing a woman. And but anyway, I also, when I knew Marie was sick, I just wanted to go with her. I mean, there's really nothing I could do except just be her friend. So I went and I got to spend time with her and got to know more deeply her partner, Chad. I already knew Chad. And Chad and Marie were partners for 12 years, the last 12 years of her life. And they each had their own separate houses, but they had a lot of fun together. And had a really deep love relationship. And when Marie got sick, she was far from family. And she wasn't even really by her good friends, because she was no longer in Crossville. She went to Knoxville which was at least 2 hours away, it seems like, wasn't it? Yeah. Anyway, Chad was there with Marie, and in the way that a love partner should be with somebody, and he is still in deep grief and shock over Marie's passing. So anyway, Chad is going to speak. We have a little bit of an audio that he did at a memorial that was done for Marie in Crossville in November. Am I saying this correctly? Okay. Okay, and then there's another audio that follows, and that's Marie's good friend Sharon. And they became friends in Crossville because Sharon was Marie's massage client, you know. So when Marie left here, she went to massage school here. She went to Louderstein Conway, and that always perplexed me because she was so damn good as a nurse practitioner. Why would she go do that? But she did, and she became very much loved in that community. And so Sharon was not just, you know, Marie. She made friends with everybody, and so it wasn't just that Sharon was her client, they also became good friends. So there's a bit on there about Sharon, speaking about Marie. So that's it. That's all I have to say.
All right. I'm hoping this is going to work. So, one second. This is recording. Yeah. It's missing its little button. Where should I? You hear it on the phone. Nothing else will do that. Oh, I'm sorry. Can we do the other one first?
The Peoples.
Yeah. Hang on, because I got to figure out the setting. It was already set.
Might have to turn the volume up on the
My first job
let's watch the whole thing at another time.
You walk down these old cement steps down to and there was a drain there, and it was kind of a dirty drain, and in through the door. And there were mattresses, kind of old mattresses on the floor where people sat and waited. We had some ancient exam tables in the back room, and I think we just sort of had fold-up screens between them. I can't really remember, and then somebody actually built some little cubicles that we had curtains on. Of course, there was an empty space at the top and the bottom of the cubicle, so you could hear everything that was going on one cubicle to the other. But it was very primitive. I spent a lot of time here, and over time we went from being a volunteer to getting paid $2.50 an hour, I think it was, and we worked on Tuesday and Thursday. And I was one of the first people that got sent to the nurse practitioner training in Houston, Connecticut. I went there for, I can't remember, 4 or 6 months, and then came back here and worked for another 2 years. I remember being astounded that people would have lab work done, and they'd write the lab work results on a piece of paper, and they'd bring it up to the secretary, and the secretary would take that information and transcribe it onto the chart, and then they'd throw that original piece of paper away, and I go, no, you can't do that. You've got to keep the original lab work with the chart. So I got to get the staplers and staple it into the chart. It was very primitive, and it's changed to just the most incredible thing that I could imagine. My best memories are working with the people and having a one-on-one relationship with my clients. The most fun thing that we did here at the clinic was we invited partners of the women in, and we taught them about the women's bodies as well as the women themselves. I've actually gotten letters from people about making their first pelvic exam one of the best experiences of their lives. Hold a mirror up so that a woman could see her cervix, and we could have the partners in so that they could look and see what her cervix was too. We felt like birth control was sort of a family thing. And when women had an IUD, they'd have a string that they had to feel to make sure that the diaphragm was, the IUD was still in place. And so we wanted the guys to be able to participate in that also. And then I'd fit the diaphragm, and then I'd leave the couple alone to kind of see if they could get it in and out successfully. My funniest memory is I walked out of the room, and in a while I heard hysterical laughing and giggling coming from the room, and I knocked, and actually knocked on the wall because we just had curtains back then, and kind of separated the curtain and walked in, and there was the diaphragm glued against the wall with the diaphragm jelly, and had just suctioned it on. Where there truly was a communal dedication to having the patient be the primary person. Sometimes I don't know how other people feel, but I go into the doctor's office now and I feel like I'm a name on a number, that the doctor is the most important person in the room. And I think that here at the clinic, what we felt like was that the person was the most important thing, and that the education of that person was of utmost importance. We tried to impart everything that we could possibly do in the short time that we were with them that would help them either not get sick again, make the best use of that, of whatever we helped them with at that time. It just seemed like it was a truly personal service. Everybody that worked here was sort of on the same wavelength, and so there was just incredible camaraderie. Friends that I made at the clinic back then are friends that are still my best friends in my life now. Even though I live far away in Tennessee, I come to Austin 3 or 4 times a year just because my love for these people is so great, and I'm so grateful to have had that for all these years.
We love you too.
I first.
The clinic did that, not me. But what we did, which I'm so grateful for,
was that at the 35th anniversary, we did these oral histories. We actually had board members.
You can't hear back here. So on the 35th anniversary of the clinic, we actually can't get a microphone for
On the 35th anniversary of the clinic, we did oral histories, and so many people came from all over the country to participate. Many of you obviously came from Austin as well. And we had it set up to do these oral histories, and I'm just so grateful that we were prescient enough to realize the importance of that, because so many of these people are no longer with us. And I was just thinking, because the clinic is about to embark on its biggest, most really incredible period of growth. We're opening a new site for anybody who doesn't know, just north of 290 east of I-35. It's 59,000 square feet. We'll be opening it in early April to the public. We'll be keeping our current location, and that will be repurposed as an entirely women's health clinic, so it'll be prenatal and family planning. And we're having a big in-service for the whole staff, which is now over 180 people.
Oh my God.
So, and it occurred to me that I need to go back and revisit all of these old pictures, because having Marie talk to our current staff about what it meant to be at the clinic when she was there, when you all were part of it, I think will be incredibly moving. And so, thank you, Alicia, for remembering that we did that.
Also, I wanted to say, Mary and I talked about if anyone wants to give a donation in Mary's name, I know she would love for it to go to the People's Community Clinic. So I did not put that in the obituary, and I'm sorry I didn't, but it's something we had thought about. So Dale, are we ready yet? Or okay. All right, we'll just know, and I'll go ahead and move forward with a few little stories. People have asked, how did I know Marie? And so I wanted to give just a very brief. So the People's Clinic, in 1972, the People's Clinic had been going on with various volunteer doctors who were men. And the night that I walked in, I had done some work at Model Cities, and I was told by Kay Bard there that I should move on to People's Free Clinic because she thought that was a better fit for me. So I went over on a Tuesday night, and when I walked in, there were these two wonderful women who had just arrived too. One from California, which was Marie from LA. She had a big blonde streak in her hair with black hair, and she was total LA. And then we had the Birkenstock. Sophie had just moved down to, her husband was going to law school with her little baby Jess, and I had left my daughter Heather, who was 18 months at the time, with her dad. And anyway, the three women showed up to work there. One was a nurse, one was an administrator, and I had done some medical work, wanted to be an advocate. So we started that night. Afterwards, we went to Les Amis and had a beer and talked about what a great place this was. And that was the beginning of our friendship, and also the beginning of the three of us becoming extremely involved with People's Free Clinic and the care that evolved from that clinic. And I'm so thrilled that it's still going on, and I know Marie was too. So just for fun, raise your hand if you were at the Free Clinic at any time. Look at us. Yay. And all right, raise your hand if you were a client. Okay. So another story that I could only tell in a group that knows Marie is that Dr. Phil Ziblatt decided that we should all go on New Year's Day to Bastrop and spend the night and have kind of a health group in kind of place that we'd all cook together, and then we would teach each other about health, and we'd have other people come. And so he assigned Marie and I to show people their cervixes. So it wasn't outdoors, it was in the cabins that they have for the group camping. So Marie decided that she would be the nurse practitioner, and she brought all the speculums, and that, we'd have a sign on the door that said, one person at a time or one couple at a time could come in, and we particularly wanted men to be able to see what a cervix looked like. So we had someone who had never had a baby, so we had that mill-up cervix, and then I was the person who'd had the baby, and so people got to it. So I got in the stirrups, and I got all totally wrapped up, so they really couldn't see, pretty much who I was. But anyway, so we brought in the first guy who came in, he was just gritty and he was stoned, and it was like, hey, I want to see what the cervix looks like. So Marie set him up, and he looked at my cervix and he fainted. I can't help it. So who else would like to say something while we're waiting for Dale? Do you have anyone else that has a Marie story? Yeah. So Mary Michael.
Well, I'm loud.
Have her go up.
I don't need
Take it anyway.
It's just
Pass it around.
Well, actually, I met Marie in '72 when I was in nursing school and came to Peoples as a volunteer. I started working with Phil, and I remember the first time I walked in, she had a little sign on her desk that said Marie Draudt at your service. And I was totally thrilled. And she invited me to a look at your cervix party. I think it was the Haswell House or something. Tons of, there were like 18 women there looking at their cervixes. I walked into, with Marie, to 18 women lying around looking at their cervixes. Awesome. And it was one of the first times I thought, well, I'm not going to be a psych nurse. I want to be midwife and gynecology and women's health. So, yay, Marie. And then she introduced me to her brother, David, and I got to be the midwife for Tim. And when Mary and David had Tim.
Raise your hand.
I'm honored.
We need psych nurses too.
I do plenty of that.
Okay, for fun, let's see the group that knew Marie from Brookside. Oh, you. Yay! You worked together, yeah. And then anybody else that was in Draudt? Since you were, Susan, I remember. Yes, and Heather was there, dancing around. Okay. So, are we ready?
I had it, I swear.
Oh, okay. I kind of heard it too. Yeah. So, all right, let's have hands of people who were directors of the People's Free Clinic. Char, then me, then Susan, and then medical, and the board of People's Clinic. And then let's have a hand show of doctors who worked at the clinic. Whoa, yay! And I guess Marie would agree with me. If we hadn't had the doctors that we had, we never could have done what we did. It was their support for an alternative type of care. And then Ted took that on with Marie to a private type of women's health center and created the same thing. And I remember one time Ted saying, all this staff, how are we going to pay for them? we had the same kind of staff, but they weren't volunteers. And Mary was like, don't worry about it, Ted. We'll take care of it. But we still carried on the same tradition of being with the patient, teaching the patient, taking the time to be with the patient. And that, I'm assuming you still have that kind of care going on. You learned everything from people, he said. Yeah.
You could afford a home
He was living in the back of the office. Okay. So another trivial aside is that the third person who arrived that night, Sophie, became the director and was a wonderful director and took the clinic from just being hippy-dippy free clinic to actually writing grants. She had great ability to write grants and was able to get money for us to send people for Planned Parenthood, for Marie. And they sent me with an HEW grant to UCLA for a year for a PA program, all expenses paid. Totally changed my life. And Harold Cody was sent to Houston from here, Dallas, and Elaine Brightwater was sent to Houston. And then Georgia Milan went to medical school soon afterwards, and Peggy Russell went to medical school soon afterwards, and David Crane became a judge. Seeing more than
And
one.
I have to say that at least a dozen midwives were spawned from People's Community Clinic. At least a dozen.
So a hand of midwives that are here. Yay. And then a little aside is that Sophie and I created the year before Oster's Follies a talent show, which we had in her garage, and we had everybody from the free clinic was in it, or they were audience. And these are the Peter Mac sheets that we used for every one of the 20 talent shows we had. Marie was always a star, too. And these are the sheets that her son Jesse was conceived on. They are the Peter Mac sheets. Yeah. Try not to look for stains. And Jess was supposed to be here, but Marie did the service for Sophie in Tennessee when she died of cancer also. And I think it was just too hard for him to be here for Marie's, but he certainly knew about it. And he and his wife very close to Marie and loved her. So.
Now for
No. So, but we do have a video of the last talent show, so if anyone wants to join us, I would recommend that you have a few margaritas before you watch it. And it was at our dear friend Jill Noak's house, and we have a great recording of the entire talent show and its silliness. But I didn't put into the obituary that Marie was also an actress. Yeah. And then if anyone did see the poster, Tad had a nickname for Marie, and her nickname was Marie the Blunt. And she totally earned that nickname because she would tell anybody anything the way it was, and there was no sugarcoating on it at all. And most of the time it was truthful, but you didn't want to hear it. So it seems that she carried on that same name because in the talk that her boyfriend Chad gives, he said she was named Marie the Blunt, and I'm not quite sure why she was named Marie the Blunt. And we're like, well, ask Tad. And then I think Sharon would say that's the New York style. Tell it like it is, but no, she had not grown up in the South, although she was born in San Antonio. She grew up in upstate New York.
Passing around the mic. So my real wonderful aunt is here, but I grew up with a lot of special other people that are my aunts too that are here today, but Marie was one of them, Aunt Marie, and when she just always offered me the opposite side of my very sentimental mother. So she was talking about Marie the Blunt. I'll tell my little Marie story was when I got my period for the first time. My mother wanted to make it a very special ritual, this phase of life, and I have very vividly remember being in the house that Jill lives in now, but our 42nd Street house is the age I was when that occurred, and Marie was there, and my mom was she had like a red rose, and she was trying to tell Marie, make this special memory. Oh, girl, I'm so sorry. That sucks, That's my real grateful for Marie for being that person for me. A lot of fun.
Yeah, after a 10-year-old. phrase it?
Yeah, but if it was all set up and ready and it's just not working for some reason.
It's all because I can't.
If y'all want to talk among yourselves and let me wrestle with it a little bit more with my tech guy here. We'll figure it out. So, sorry. Ted, did you tell us how you
Well, there's many reasons, and of course that's the obvious reason why. But one thing about people, I think, with Marie coming over and with the other people, Alicia and other people coming in, it taught me a lot about medicine and how to give medical care in a humane sort of way, and really change the stereotype of what most other physicians are when they come out of medical school. And Maria was part of that group that changed me, I know personally, and coming to the people. I always remember Maria was called her the rings on her toes. Yeah, Maria has rings on her toes. And there's a lot of other stories I still cannot tell.
Anita, I know you're shy, but I'm going to say that Anita was, how old were you then? 20? 19. And Tad was so talented in picking the people that worked for him at Brookside. Nikki, Anita, Deborah, Elaine Henry, and Marie to start it. And I was in the PA program in California, so this all happened while I was gone. The idea that I would come back, work part-time for Peoples, which I did, because they were part-time clinic anyway, and part-time for Tad. But I remember that each person that he picked to work for us was just excellent at what they did, and it was just this amazing group of talented people that he chose because he had learned the pattern from the free clinic, and so Marie inspired a lot of people and to go on to nursing school and various things, and I know she inspired Anita, and she always just loved that Anita went on to become an RN. And then Anita went on to get a master's degree and to do work in San Antonio with a very famous doctor, Dr. Figueroa? Mm-hmm. Figueroa, who's been UT Chancellor, up until just a year ago, I think, and pediatric kidney transplants, and that is her specialty. And she was his first top-rate assistant nurse in doing surgery. And I don't know if you, and she's now left that to work with transplants that are adults, which is a little bit easier job. But he, after working at UT, during that time he still did some surgery, because I met and talked to him at one point and said I knew Anita, and he couldn't say more wonderful things and how much he missed being back in San Antonio and working with those children. And when he left UT, he went back, and now he's doing kidney transplants with children. So I think that's a wonderful story that came originally with some of Marie's and Tad's, pushing them to do that.
One story that I can't tell the whole podcast. It did have to do with Tad. And I was working at Brackenridge Hospital before I started working with Tad as a high school student and nurse's aide, and I was used to nurses being so respectful to doctors. And one time when I started working for Tad, I was very, very naive, and Tad asked Marie to call a doctor for him. And Marie looked at Tad and said, "What's wrong with your ethnic?" And I just stood there and I just went, "Oh my God." But after that, I tell you, I learned fast. But She was very
Grace has a story.
We got a story back here. It ought to be a good one.
I have a story too.
So when I first started working at Brookside, I was young, not as young as you. And can you hear me now? Okay. Anyway, I brought in some chocolate chip cookies. I thought it'd be a nice thing to do. That's what I was always taught to do, bring cookies. And I offered one to Tad, and he said, oh no, I can't. He said, if I have one, I just can't stop. And Marie says, oh, he said the same thing happened to him with vaginas. I was like,
if any of y'all want to come and look at it, Marie gave me this necklace I have on. And Marie was, as you can imagine, very sexy. And this necklace is a little Incan sort of figurine, and he's got a very erect penis. So that was Marie, but that wasn't the story actually I was going to tell, except that Marie was sexy, right? She had this exuberance for life that was in every area of her life. But we had a lot of residents that came over and did what's called moonlighting at People's Community Clinic. They didn't make much money, and they needed a little extra money. They weren't going to make much money at People's for sure, but they made, I don't know, maybe they made $15 or $20 a night.
And beer.
And beer, we take them to Les Amis, that's right. But we had this guy, and I don't remember his name, thank goodness, but he was a psych resident, but he was moonlighting at People's, and he was rough. And so I worked, we had general medical, but we had, prenatal programs, and family planning was a big thing, and he was working in family planning, and he was, patients would complain to him to stop, you're hurting me, and he wouldn't stop. And so Marie and I decided that had to end. And so we went and we fired him. And he never came back. But Tad came to us and said, you guys, it's Texas Medical Act says only a physician can fire a physician. Well, we did.
What if we play it?
Talk about. Sure.
And the batteries.
So, the stories I can't talk about is Marie had a period in her life where she was on the chili circuit. Remember that?
Yeah.
Oh my God. We hired David.
You hired him.
I did. I hired him. Best job you ever had.
Best job
you ever had. But I want to talk about Marie and the talent show. And if you didn't get a chance to go over and look at some of the things, but we were the original Saturday Night Live, and some of the acts that she would come and she would just get so into it. And I was thinking about, I said to Sharon that when the last talent show we did in 2003, and Sophie was still alive then, yeah. And we, Sharon, myself, Barbara, you here? Barbara, Marie, and the person that I was seeing at that time, we did, now this was 2003, and so we did The Bachelor at Shady Acres. And so it was, we were at the old farts home, and Marie, Barbara, of course, was the intellectual, and Marie was the sex pot, and I was, what was I, the Jewish American princess? The aging Jewish American princess, and was that when Jack thought I stuffed my butt?
I don't know. I'm not touching that one.
It was just my regular butt. And Jack was like, "Wow, Shari, that's incredible. How did you do that?" And I was like, because his beautiful wife Jill.
He was nervous. He was about to do the river dance.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. But it just that act, along with many prior acts in prior years, but that one epitomized her to the T, because she just, even though we were at Shady Acres, she still was the most vibrant.
She was working it.
She was working it. What was her name? Regina? I think it was. And there's many acts, boobs and balls, and their dog named Peg, and I could go on and on and on. River, the Pecker Checker. Many. But I love that. She continued to epitomize herself, and I go to my deathbed with the fact that some of the funniest moments I've ever had in my life were at the talent show, and many vivid memories of Marie at that. So anyway, I want you to talk about your first job. I mean, you're being the only man at the People's Community Clinic.
Are we ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Well, no, there was other guys there, but I like your version of the story.
Don't let the truth get in the way.
Don't let the truth get in the way.
Right.
I don't have much to add to anything, but it really was an eye-opening experience to go down there and meet all these people that were doing very important work in the community. And Shar kind of dragged me off the street and put me in there and dressed me up and showed me how to go to work every day and do everything. And Marie did too, and everybody did, because everybody was so engaged and so smart and doing such an important job. And it really meant a lot to me to be a part of that experience. And, I was kind of embarrassed about that you even hired me, but I was grateful, and we had a great time. And it's great memories, and it's always been an important part of my life. And I'm grateful for all of y'all, and Marie too. I love Marie. I love all of y'all.
Are we ready, Dale?
Yeah, I'm going to have to turn off this stream to make room for hearing it on. So mostly what you're going to hear is the audio. And off with the broadcast.